beautiful. How you doing today? Welcome back or welcome if this is your first time joining us. And if it is your first time joining, please make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit subscribe. Thank you to all the new subscribers. And let's get on with this video. So a couple of days ago, sometime last week, I had made a promise to a subscriber who left a comment asking about whether or not, gay guys use protection in prison. Queens use protection in prison, because he had heard that sometimes they use a garbage bag or something like that to wrap the dude up, and they use that. I'm just going to keep it 100% real with you. Don't nobody in prison use protection. That's just the truth. Anybody that is telling you something different is lying. Like, I had seen something on one of the locked up shows on the National Geographic or whatever, the locked up reality shows. There was one episode I had seen where it did kind of have some gay guys talking about what it's like on the compound. They were talking about how men, are secretive and things like that, or whatever. They were feminine. If you notice, they did act girly. They acted more girlier than I'm acting right now, which I acted more girlier when I was in prison, which would confirm, validate the shit that I be talking about on this channel. But anyway, and I do remember that in that episode I had seen, the gay guy was saying, they use protection by using trash bags or something like that. And this was before I had gotten locked up that I had seen that episode, and I believed it. I don't know if your comment that you left was referring to this episode, or were you actually talking about maybe somebody on YouTube or something that they were talking about it and they had said this. I don't know, but regardless, it isn't true, because when I was locked up, I was on 2 different compounds, and nobody ever, out of all the queens that I met and kicked it with, which that was kind of my goal, was to really connect with the other gay guys, the fellow queens. I wasn't really about the men, so I met a lot of different, almost all of the queens, the ones that socialized, the ones that interacted with other queens. You did have some that they don't talk to anybody, which I learned later why that is, but nobody ever talked about protection. Nobody, and they talked about what they did. They talked about the guys that they mess around with, that they use in order to get commissary, or the guys that are obsessive, the guys that are violent. They talked about their situations with their husbands, sometimes give, just like regular housewives, I would say, sometimes give tips about how you be a better homemaker, a better, girl for your man, cute little things you can do to make the cell more like a home, to satisfy your man, make him more happy. They talked about sex. Some of them would even share too many details. I shared details about the first 2, Mountain Man, for the Prison Diary people, Mountain Man and Boss. Those 2 people I used to talk like they were just, a Saturday night hookup. I would talk about them to the queens. Cam, the only thing is, when we first got together, and I didn't know that the relationship was obviously going to turn out to be as serious as it was, there was one queen, which it turned out to be kind of the wrong fucking bitch, but ain't that always the case? There was one queen that I did brag to them, that Cam was packing serious, seriously dangerous heat between them legs. Cam was, 1,000,000% satisfying me. There was, and I just kind of made a joke, and really all I said was, I was oh, if Boss had been swinging low like Cam, then I'd probably still be over there. Because Boss, used to give me so much stuff. But anyway, they talk about everything, by the way, that was the only comment that I had made, and I only made that comment one time, we laughed about it. But then after that, I never discussed my relationship with, I didn't talk about it. And even when Cam found out, this is just a little side note, when Cam found out that I, said that to them, he kind of thought that was crazy, which I can understand that. But Cam loves telling everybody everything about our relationship. That's one of the reasons why we just had this major falling out to begin with, in addition to a lot of different things. But I found out he was telling somebody some crazy stuff. Like, I would love to tell y'all what he said, but we're trying to move forward. And frankly, he explained it to me, and I do understand where Cam comes from sometimes. Like, Cam is just like, poor man. He's just too childish sometimes. Like he's like picture a guy, like, you know, they get a new car, they just flash it to everybody. You know, they have money, they just want to shine on everybody. Cam's like that sometimes, and I treat him so good, and it's a compliment. He considers me to be such a prize by, you know, the way that I like give him love and show him love, and, you know, the things that I do for him. And, you know, he likes to brag about it to people, and that's really where his mind frame comes from when he like shares certain things with some people. But I'd be telling him, like, this is our relationship, this is supposed to be a private thing, like a special thing, a sacred thing. This is something that you're supposed to want to protect. It's not on me to enforce it from you. This is something you should just naturally, like a protection you should naturally have for not only me but our relationship, you know. But anyway, you know, I had my slip up, but I never did it again. But my point, I didn't gotten off on a tangent, but my point is, the queens talk about everything, okay? They talk about everything. You know, douching. I've made videos about, you know, cleaning yourself and stuff. They swap stories. That is something that has never came up. Nobody ever talks about what they use for protection, or ask, not even ask, like, do you use protection? Because, you know, I always use protection with my man, or something like that. It never had even once came up, not even once, from anybody that I ever like dealt with. And what I mean by that is the queens that I was friends with, it never came up once. And the men that I, you know, knew or sometimes got involved with, it never once came up ever. Now what does come up, well, before I actually say that, and as a result of that, I will say the HIV rate or whatever, status, you know, number in prison is insanely high. It is literally, this is not me being dramatic, it is literally, I found this out as I was in prison, and just the amount of people that I would hear that were HIV positive. It is more easy to get HIV, to catch HIV and become HIV positive. It is more easy to do that in prison than it is out here. That was another reason why I didn't want to be a scandalous hoe. And there's a lot of reasons that I didn't really want to be loose like these other bitches, because my pride, the men don't look like what you see on TV in there. I'm just saying, like, a lot of the men in prison, you know, they're not as beautiful as they make them look on TV. So, like, my pride, the fact that they ain't really my type, too many of them, the disrespect because they, you know, want to talk all this trash to their homeboys, and sometimes even right in front of your face or to you, and then turn around and then they want you servicing them. That irritated me. The fact that I'm not being, we're on number 5, the fact that I'm not being like desired as a man, as a gay man, I'm being desired as a woman imposter. That bothered me. On to number 6. And then the dangers. I realized that it is more like easy to get HIV, to catch HIV in prison than it is out here, and it is because of this couple of facts. The fact that people don't use protection in prison. They don't use protection. They don't. The pool, the community, the pool of people that are engaging in this, like, you know, stuff. In prison, they call it the game. I've been meaning to actually make a video about this. In prison, people who get involved with the queens, they call that the game for some reason. I'll make a video about, like, the psychology behind that, but it's called the game. Like, that guy's in the game, or he, you know, you switching up to be in the game, or whatever, you know. That's just the expression that they use in prison. But the pool of people who are in the game with the homosexuals, engaging with the homosexuals, it is small. It's not the whole compound. It's a pocket of people. You know, no matter how large that number is, there's only so many people that are actually doing this. You know, and they get passed around, kind of like, you know. So it makes it kind of, it just spreads easily, is my point. You have that fact. Nobody's using prison. Nobody's using protection. And then lastly, tattoos. Everyone in prison. You have people who had contracted HIV in prison that, as far as I would know, they never messed around with a homosexual, but they got it because of getting tattoos. Everybody gets tattoos in prison, and they use these bootlegged needles. You know, you don't know whether it's being reused. Even if it's not being used, how clean is it? How clean was it as they were trying to put it together? Because it's not a professional needle. It's a handmade needle that they put together themselves. Like, where are they storing it? It could be stored in dust, you know, like under the bunk or something, because they gotta hide it even under a blanket. When's the last time they washed that blanket? Like, you know, it's really easy to catch HIV. So as a result, since people don't use protection in prison, then it's like, okay, to answer this guy's question, to answer your question, it's like, okay, well then what do you do? And what did I do? I actually, for this video, should have dug up my copies. I think I still have. I know that I still have Boss's copy and Mountain Man's copy. I think that's, and I have an old copy of mine. HIV, my blood test, the blood test. What queens do as a way to protect themselves, since nobody's using protection, is to ask the guy, well, usually both people will get a copy of their HIV blood test, because you are required to get a blood test when you get admitted into prison, and then you can get it done at any time. Like, if you haven't had it in a year or however long, you can write a request form to medical, ask to get your blood drawn, your blood tested, and they test you for everything. They test your blood for HIV, for syphilis, gonorrhea, whatever the hell, like, you know, whatever diseases, but HIV is definitely one of them. And then for 10 cents, you can get a copy of your blood test results, and that is how you basically protect yourself, by seeing the person's blood test. I can't speak for a lot of them bitches. Personally, I don't think that too many queens actually ask the guys this. I think the only times that they really actually require this or push to get it from the guy is if somebody's trying to be their husband and they're going to be sleeping with this person like long term or multiple times or something. Then I think eventually then they probably do ask, they want to see it. Or if the guy is asking, because a lot of guys, they usually are questioning the queens for that blood test because they know that the queens sleep around, you know. Me personally, this is why I say that I wish I had pulled copies before making this video, if I had been thinking ahead of time, just to show y'all so y'all believe me. I asked every person that I had intercourse with. I will be honest, some of the people that I just kind of like messed around with or, you know, flirted with or something, I didn't get everybody's, you know, blood test like results. But every single person that I had intercourse with, except for Cam, which we always thought that was so ironic, like it was like a running joke really with me that I would tease him about. I'm like, and explain that one to me. I literally, any person that I got involved with and we did that, like the full on deal, which is a handful of people. My total like incarceration time, I was with like just over 10 people. If you saw the video, then you know the exact number, but it's like just over 10 people, which is stellar great compared to the average homosexual. They're with like 10 people in a span of like 3 days. My total time incarcerated, I was with 10 people. But of that 10 people, that includes blowjobs and full-on intercourse. Half of that, like, is intercourse. Cam is one of them, you know, so I only had been bending over, but for so many people, you know, like prior to going to prison, I actually am kind of picky about that kind of stuff. Like, I used to be really particular, you know, and then the most loosest that I ever was when I was dating that millionaire guy, and after that relationship fell apart, and I just went into this depression, and I just wanted to feel like desired. I wanted to feel wanted, and I just kind of abused my body. That was the worst that I ever was. Like, it was bad. I mean, it was crazy in a way, but at the same time, it was sad. You know, it was definitely sad. Like, I was abusing myself, but by the time that I got in prison, my mind was, you know, pulled together, and I didn't, you know, it's not as easy as I think people think. A lot of people always feel like, and I hated this, a lot of people always feel like, oh, for a gay guy, going to prison must be a paradise. It must be a gay man's heaven. But it's like, it's really not, because the guys don't want you as a gay guy. They desire you as a woman. The more you remind the men as a female, the more attractive you are to them. The less you remind them of a female, the less attractive you are to them. And that, like, determines how they even treat you, you know, because you have some guys that, yeah, maybe they're desired and they're getting attention from guys, but they treat that queen like shit. But then somebody else who really acts like a woman, they are treating that one like a queen, you know. It's so, you have that. Then you have the fact that it's not open to every single guy handpicked. It's the guys that are available to you that are actually, like, in the game pursuing the homosexuals, and that even want you. But then, you know, they're treating you like a woman. They're disrespectful to you because you're not a woman, so they're not even treating you as good as a woman. They're treating you as something less than a man. And, you know, it's like, are you attracted to every single guy that you see? Like, of course not. You know, you have your own standards, your own taste, and imagine that none of these guys are it. And then even worse, the ones that are your taste or that you would like, they're not publicly available like that. Like, they're either in the closet, and, you know, it's difficult as hell to even start a conversation with them. And then if you did, now it's like a secret relationship, which, who wants that, and how are you even doing it, you know? Or they're just not available to you at all, you know? Like, it's really not as great as people think that it is. But yeah, I always get carried away, you guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's really just the only protection that you use, is the HIV blood test. And for me, that was how I protected myself. I always asked every single guy for that test, and I wouldn't do anything till I got it. Boss, Mountain Man, what's his name, Brent. These are Prison Diary folks, would know these names that I'm talking about. Brent was the dude, the first prisoner guy that I had been with. Cam and Enrique too. Enrique showed me it. Brent showed me it. The dude Midnight, the black dude Midnight. Boss, Mountain Man. That's it. And Cam is the one that didn't show me it. Like, he's the only one that didn't show me. So there you have it. But they do not use no protection, honey. And I'm telling you, a lot of them end up with HIV. It's very sad. And then it's scary too, because you never know who has it, because the rumors go around. Pretty much everybody suspects all the queens to have it, but some queens actually do have it, so you don't know who has it and who doesn't. And then the dangerous part, the reason why I always make sure to ask all the men, is because a lot of the regular guys have it, but they ain't saying shit. You only find out if you get that freaking blood test, or because they're up in medical all the time getting pills, and they don't want to tell you what they're getting pills for, you know? But it's like, why are you going to medical and you're always, you know what I mean? Like, why, you know? Yeah, so I was very happy when Cam is healthy as a horse, don't need to go to medical for shit. In fact, sometimes I would beg him to go to medical because he played basketball all the time. He was like a basketball star in prison, and he had hurt his shoulder, and for like a year he was in pain all the time, and I kept asking him to go to medical, but it's hard to get seen by medical and all that stuff. But I'm done. So that's my video, and I hope that answers your question. I really love you guys' comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. There was something that I was going to say that I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but I forgot. There was something I was going to talk about tomorrow, but I'll remember, and I will post mañana. I love you guys. Bye. Don't judge me too hard.